Welcome back to Headlines. I'm Wes Austin, and these are today's top stories. First, Bill Gates has pledged the majority of his $200 billion fortune to Africa, even though Seattle has more tents than Nairobi at this point. Apparently, when Gates sees 800,000 homeless Americans, he just assumes they're lining up for Windows tech support. Then, Hakeem Jeffries pledged to expose the identities of ICE agents despite them facing death threats. Unmasking ICE agents? That's a brilliant idea, Hakeem. Now when activists want to send threats, they won't have to guess which house to torch. They'll have the address and the floor plan. Next, JeanPierre says she's no longer a Democrat and is writing a memoir about White House dysfunction. Her independent memoir comes with a warning label, may contain gaslighting, spin, and selective amnesia. And finally, turns out the FBI didn't just have one memo targeting Catholics, they had a baker's dozen. So Christopher Wray with the FBI said that it was just one memo from one field office. And by one, I guess he meant 13 documents, 5 attachments, and a sequel. At this point, it's less an investigation and more a cinematic universe where all the villains are Catholic. Okay, let's dive in. Bill Gates has pledged the majority of his $200 billion to Africa. Gates made this announcement while speaking at Nelson Mandela Hall at the African Union in Ethiopia, emphasizing that the donations will focus on working with governments to address challenges in Africa. The United States has almost 800,000 homeless, and 150,000 of them are children. But Gates has pledged to give all of the $200 billion to Africa, probably because it's one of the last places where nobody asks, "Hey, weren't you friends with Epstein?" House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries has vowed to expose the identities of ICE agents involved in recent immigration enforcement actions. Now, this is despite warnings from ICE that agents are wearing masks because of death threats.
Every single ICE agent who's engaged in this aggressive overreach and are trying to hide their identities from the American people will be unsuccessful in doing that. This is America. This is not the Soviet Union. We're not behind the Iron Curtain. And every single one of them, no matter what it takes, no matter how long it takes, will of course be identified.
Here's Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons explaining why ICE agents are wearing masks.
People are out there taking photos of the names, their faces, and posting them online with death threats to their family and themselves. So I'm sorry if people are offended by them wearing masks. But I'm not going to let my officers and agents go out there and put their lives on the line and their family on the line because people don't like what immigration enforcement is.
Some of you might recall that Jeffries and the Democrats didn't have any problems with the masked Antifa rioters back in 2020 when they were burning down cities. But that was different. They were breaking the law. Masks are only okay when people are breaking the law. Aren't you glad that Hakeem Jeffries is standing up for the real victims here? Criminals who don't know where the ICE agents' wives and children live. Former White House Press Secretary JeanPierre announced that she is leaving the Democratic Party and releasing a memoir titled Independent, a look inside a broken White House outside the party lines, set to publish October 21st. I gotta tell you, when I first saw that headline, I about died because I was worried she was becoming a Republican, and I was like, that will kill our party. So, at least she's independent. The book promises an insider account of dysfunction within the Biden administration, including the events leading to Biden dropping his re-election bid and what she describes as betrayal by the Democratic Party. She promises insider accounts of dysfunction. Finally, something she's qualified to talk about. Her becoming independent is like switching seats after you farted. We all know where it came from, Karine. Remember when former FBI Director Christopher Wray swore that the infamous 2023 memo targeting radical traditional Catholics was just a rogue job from one field office in Richmond? Thanks to newly released documents, We now know that the FBI didn't just draft one memo smearing Catholics. They had 13 additional documents along with 5 attachments and a sequel memo which repeated the idea that traditional Catholicism was linked with violent extremism. Apparently, targeting people who turn the other cheek requires extensive documentation. Ray's testimony also left out the fact that the original memo was circulated to over 1,000 FBI employees. That's more people than watch CNN, but apparently still not enough to recognize that this was a bad idea. Additionally, these new documents showed that the Richmond office wasn't acting alone. The FBI field offices in Louisville, Portland, and Milwaukee were also involved. 4 FBI offices working together. That's the most interagency cooperation we've seen since they all agreed to ignore Hillary's emails. Thanks for watching Headlines. I'm Wes Austin. Good night.